there he
He's here,
is.
Mary Ann. He's
Okay.
here.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm here.
See you. All right, we can get rocking and rolling here. I'm going to call the Ways and Means meeting to order for Wednesday, May 6th. And we are on Zoom video conference and we are being recorded. All right, to open the meeting, I'd like to have an approval of the minutes from April 15th. I'll move that.
Oh, second.
Shelley and John, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are carried. All right, the next item is the Information Technology Director. Steve, would you like to present your contract?
So this contract with Windstream does a couple of things for us. One, it increases bandwidth at the Building 2 facility from 100 megabits per second to 200 megabits per second. And it increases the bandwidth at Park Road from 20 megabits to 50 megabits. But the bigger option with this is what's called SD-WAN technology, or software-defined networking. Right now, if Windstream were to go dark, so we would lose all connectivity to the outside world. Somebody Googles www.co.genesee, they find nothing. We have no email, we have no presence on the internet, we have absolutely nothing. So what this product does for us is allow us to share what's called our IP addresses between Windstream, Empire Access, and anybody else that we would bring in the future as an ISP, that if Windstream were to go dark, the other ISPs stay active and we never have an outage from that perspective. This has happened twice in the last 5 years where we've lost connectivity through Windstream, and it gets pretty ugly. So for the small price of $26.75 this year and $53.72 going into the 2021 budget, we not only increase our bandwidth, it helps all of the products we have in the cloud, Zoom meeting being one of them. And it gives us the ability of, we won't go dark if our primary carrier goes out.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Andrew. Was that Andrew or was that John?
John and I.
All right, John and Andrew. Thank you. Comments or questions?
Steve, what would cause something like Windstream to not be active / this scenario?
They have a major outage in one of their data centers.
Okay, so it's something literally more likely at their end, so to speak?
Or even from the perspective, and I know a lot of the wires out here are on the same poles.
Okay.
But if a wire were cut and it strictly was Windstream, we'd still have access because the internet pipe is up.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any questions from any members of Ways and Means? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That's carried.
Thank you.
Steve. All right, next up is the indemnification agreement for Genesee County / Norfolk Southern Railroad and Tim Hens.
Hello, this resolution is to allow the legislature to approve or authorize Shelley, I guess, to sign for the legislature on an indemnification agreement that we need to obtain with Norfolk Southern Railroad for the Dry Bridge Road project in Alexander. The contractor's on site working and they're doing stuff up on top of the bridge and above the railroad embankment. But at some point soon, we'll need to get down into the railroad right away to clean up debris and things that have fallen in over the from before the project started. And in order to do that, we have to have an access agreement with the railroad, basically indemnifying them if we cause any issues. I've run this through Kevin Earl, and we put it through NYMER for their review, and just basically need to get the agreement signed so we can allow the contractor to move ahead on the project.
Motion for approval.
Thank you, Andrew.
Second.
Thank you, John. Comments or questions from Ways and Means members? Any other comments or questions from other legislators? All right, seeing none, I'll take the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to bring this to committee too. I normally would take this through public service. It's just kind of a time sensitive issue, so I appreciate the consideration.
You're welcome. And thank Chairman Hilchi for that as well. Thank you, Tim. All right, we have referrals from Human Services. Andrew, whenever you're ready.
Okay, the first one is a contract amendment, Office for the Aging with ARC Meal Service.
Thank you. Can I have a second for that?
Second.
Thank you, Shelley. Comments or questions with this resolution? All right, they do a great job, and I heard from Human Services the other day that their demand is way up. So I'm glad that we can assist our seniors and our vulnerable population, especially during this time. It's so important.
It's approximately doubled.
Yes, and thanks to the members of the senior center and the ARC for working with us to do this. So it's really important, and we thank them. All right, any other comments or questions?
Madam Chair, I did have a Office of Aging Advisory Council meeting this afternoon, and they made over, I think it was like 538 home deliveries so far, and it was in April. So that's up from 0.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's so hard for the elderly to even go into the grocery stores, and it's a dangerous place for them to be when this contagion is still out there and active. So we're happy we can do this, and we're glad they can stay home and stay safe and still get their meals. Thank
Most
you.
of those deliveries are made by staff or other county personnel they're using.
Wow, awesome. Thank you, Gary. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll take the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Second referral from Human Services is a contract amendment, a budget amendment. It's actually a grant acceptance for early intervention.
Thank you, John, for the second. Comments or questions about this?
Madam
Shelley, go ahead.
So how are these services currently being delivered? Was that also described during this time of COVID-19?
I don't know that it was.
Jay, do you have any idea about that? Can't hear you, Jay.
Sorry about that. I'm
That's
reading
all
the backup. If I'm not mistaken, this is part of the new elevated level testing process. So it would be dealt with strictly based on referrals. And this money is actually being used as part of our salary component to do this testing. But I can't tell you exactly what their, if it's coming from mandatory reporting, then we go, or if it's people that actually, there are some times when people can still come to the health department. We can check with Paul.
Thank you.
Has that program been suspended at all? I mean, I'm assuming there's no one being able to go into other people's homes and test for lead right now.
That's another question we'll get clarity on.
And if that employee has been helping out in other areas, I'm assuming with the health department.
I know that person's definitely doing contact tracing.
That's what I assume. All right, thank you, Jay. Okay, if there are any other questions from members of the legislature? All right, we'll take the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
All right, Kevin Earl, you have your department review. Would you like to talk to us about that?
Yes, my report focused pretty much on the calendar year 2019, so I've been asked to kind of update what's happened in 2020. First of all, everybody may not know, we have 2 new hires. On January 27th, we hired a Michael Stivers. He was a 6-year Navy veteran and then went back to law school after his Navy service. Been an attorney for about 20 years. He's mainly been in his own private practice, but he's also been on assigned counsel list, so he's done a lot of assigned counsel family court work. When we hired him, he actually had just worked for a few months part-time for the Genesee County Public Defender's Office, and he was working specifically in family court. So he's had a lot of family court experience, not necessarily prosecuting cases, but defending cases. And there is kind of a difference, but I think it's always good for an attorney to be aware of both sides. And then on February 25th, we hired Melissa Sanfrini, who really doesn't need much of an introduction for you because I know she's been in front of the legislature many times. She's an excellent attorney, has 21 years of experience. She does not have much background in family court, but obviously she's prosecuted hundreds of criminal cases. She also did civil work in some big, large law firms. So she's had a lot of trials. She's done pleadings. She's done briefs. And I'm very confident she'll be able to quickly pick up the family court aspects because she's had all this experience. And from everything I've heard, both of them have worked in very well with the existing attorneys. Focusing a little bit on the COVID-19 responses, initially when we were asked to contribute to the 50% of people working from home, we had 2 people in the office and 3 working, these are the social services attorneys, of course, working in the office and 3 working from home. Then at Paula's suggestion to basically increase the distancing effect and have less people being in contact, we went to having just 1 person in the office each day and the other 4 working from home. And of course, the ones working from home could come in from time to time if they needed to get files or needed to talk personally with some caseworkers. We are alternating daily because they don't want to go too long in between, weeks at a time. So that, every day we have a different attorney now working each day, and every day before we alternated daily. I'm in regular contact with Paula, but last week I actually called all 4 of the other attorneys just to see how they were doing, see if the working from home was okay, if they needed any other technological support or whatever. And all of them said that it's been working very well. I just do want to report that they absolutely are working full time. They're all not, taking the time to get up to date on some files. They also have to still have court hearings if there's emergency removals, if they have to remove a child or other emergency orders of protection that they might need. So they're doing virtual hearings on cases that they have. They also have to still complete the reports that they normally did, even though the court is not handling the cases. They still have to do their report work. So all of them are still working from home very well, and I think that's worked out well for each of them. As far as the operating myself, I'm obviously having the same issues with other department heads. We're having to adjust to the lower support staff. Initially, by the way, Cindy, as you can see, I'm extremely impressed with her work. She's picked up things very fast. She had to do a lot of it on her own. I had my surgery about 10 days after she started, so I wasn't even around to help her. And she's very thorough and, basically keeps getting until she needs the information and gets the information. Some of the department heads might saying, well, we never had to used to do this before, but I kind of saying there's a new sheriff in town and we've got to make sure we do this right. So I kept assuring her that next year it's going to be easier. One of the big things is with regard to getting all the information to give to NYMER so they could quote our insurance policies. Originally, she was working from home as part of the 50%, and then I begrudgingly agreed to have her be part of the furlough for 30 days. I absolutely cannot get by without her for longer than 50 or 30 days, but Pam and Vicky are pitching right in and helping me as much as I can. So I think we're getting by. Obviously, not as efficiently as we were if Cindy was in the office next door, but I appreciate everybody's help. So I think that's about it.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions for the county attorney's office? Shelley, go ahead.
So Kevin, what is the caseload that the assistant county attorneys are still managing with Department of Social Services? Would you have an idea of that?
Well, it's just, Paula helped me with the information that I wrote from 2019. Obviously she's there and she knew the information. I would say it's staying about the same. The caseload has not increased or decreased dramatically. I think one of the things that we've all seen, unfortunately, is there's a rise in domestic violence because these people are home and frustrated. So far, I haven't had any reports that it's accelerated yet from Paula, but that's something that may happen. But as of now, I've had no reports of any increase because of the distancing and people being at home.
Is that some data that you would like to get, Shelley, for follow-up?
I think that this is probably important for us to understand how the situation is working during this COVID-19 case.
All right, that's no problem. In other words, see if there's been an increase in any caseload, or as we said, removals or domestic violence that leads to our assistant county attorneys being involved.
And they're still doing like the Medicaid filings and all those things that go.
Oh,
through.
yeah. All of that stuff that has to be done is still being done. The liens, the support, obviously is still going on remotely. So all of the things that they've been doing before, they've been very well able to handle from home.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead, Gary.
Kevin, what's going on in family court? I mean, are they issuing order protections or are they handling any cases at all?
Yeah, what they did do is all existing order protections, they just automatically kept them in place without having to go back to court. But you kind of hit on the key. I didn't really get into detail, but the assistant county attorneys still have to do all the reports that they normally would do. In other words, every so often they've got to go in if they might have to make a motion to continue an order of protection. So they don't have to do that, but they still have to do all the reports that they needed to do and eventually when they go back to court, they have to be up to speed, so they're ready to go. So right now, all those orders are continued, but they do have to go in if they have to for emergency. For new orders, they are able to go to court.
What's happening to child abuse and neglect cases?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Child abuse and neglect cases, what's happening to those with regards to a family court?
Well, if they need to get to court to have some action, they definitely, those are essential. So if they need to take some action, they definitely will go to court virtually. That's why I mentioned they still are going to court virtually when they need to.
Okay.
Kevin, can you tell me what devices they're using and if we're okay with the way we're doing it? I mean, are they on their personal devices in some cases, cell phones and such? And is that something that the state is sanctioning?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question, but I will find out. I didn't ask them specifically what the devices were. I asked them specifically, do they need anything from us to be able to work better? And they all assured me that they did not, but I will check on that as well. And
I'm just wondering with regards to confidentiality and those kinds of things, if they're having to, log in on cell phones and stuff, I think that's occurring, that some of them are using their cell phone.
Steve Zimmer, did we have any involvement in doing any of that enabling with regard to the IT equipment that was deployed, either iPads and or the smartphones?
Now, for those attorneys, they all come through DSS with the state.
All right, just want to make sure we're, up to the standards we need to be and not in any kind of jeopardy there.
yeah, I will ask that. I'm assuming they're logging on through the state. Steve can correct me if I'm wrong, but that into sites that are secure.
Okay.
But I will check and give you an updated report, and I'll also report back if they've seen any uptick in cases because of the social situations where people are at home and obviously mental health, I assume, is getting more calls than they got.
Yeah, they're busy.
Trickle down in, and see if that's trickled down into cases for the DSS.
Shelley, go ahead.
So Kevin, what type of things do you have open that you're working on still without the support of Cindy in the office?
Yeah, I meant to get to that. I did forget. Well, first and foremost, I'm working on the extenders for the sales tax and the mortgage tax. That I sent into the attorneys in Albany to take a look at both of those before they're submitted. But both of those will be coming in front of you in the Ways and Means the next meeting and acting on the local laws needed for the mortgage tax and a resolution for the sales tax. I'm working, we're pretty close to closing the purchase of the property, adjacent property for the jail property that we need. So I've been working on that, and that's coming to fruition. The other thing that I've been working on is we purchased the property for a new communications tower in the town of Attica in the county of Wyoming. So I'm working similarly like what we did in Monroe County when we purchased those property. I'm working with the three entities to get those declared tax exempt. I think those are probably the three major things that I'm working on right now. You know, as things come up, you know, in cases that we have, I don't have anything that's due right now. I will say, actually, the one thing that I could mention, Gary's aware of this. We had a situation where we took away a person's guns, and he sued Gary, saying that we violated his Fifth Amendments and et cetera. What happened was we had a court order to suspend his license for 5 years, and we originally made a motion to take his guns away, and he got an attorney. The attorney worked with Duran, who was handling those cases then. They signed an agreement, both this individual, Paul Sullivan, and his attorney. Nonetheless, he appealed to the Western District of New York, asking that his rights were violated. What I think he has is he doesn't have an attorney, but he obviously has somebody that's writing his legal work for him, you know, maybe somebody that's a gun advocate and has a little bit of knowledge. I made a motion for summary judgment, which basically means judge, throw out the case. There's no merit to this. It doesn't even have to go to trial, which usually is not granted, as Gary knows well, unless there is really no case. That was granted in the Western District of New York. And then he appealed it to the Second Circuit of New York, which is the court that's next to the Supreme Court. We submitted all our briefs, and I'm waiting for a decision, but I really don't expect to get a contrary decision. It is unusual for a higher court to overrule somebody unless there's something that was really done wrong. And this case really has no merit. Hopefully he's not going to appeal to the Supreme Court, but I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Kevin?
I just have one. We had an option to buy that land next to the jail. How long does that option last?
Oh, no, we already exercised the option. We had a resolution, we exercised the option, and we authorized, well, back then, of course, it was Bob to sign the contract. So we're already exercising, we're moving forward. As you might recall, the price was $5,000 for that option. And he asked that an appraisal be done so that if he was giving to us, Jim Vincent was giving it to us for a very discounted value. And the appraisal came back, if I'm not mistaken, for $65,000. So I assume he's going to probably want some type of a tax deduction for that difference. But from our perspective, he gave us a very, very discounted price. I was surprised that the appraisal came back that high, but we made a good deal. So now I'm just working on closing the deal now.
Thank you.
Well, how long do you think that's going to be, Kevin, till we close?
I think by the end of the month, we're that close.
Shelley, you have a question?
So is there any problems with our county clerk's office in getting that title transferred once the payment's been made?
Yeah, well, we also, I sent you, by the way, that, that we did close the property, the selling of Ag Park West Drive. And Mike was very solicitous, obviously, because we're involved. So to answer your question, no, I'm in contact with Mike, and I can personally deliver the documents. I don't have to file online. Obviously, a lot of the fees are waived. It wouldn't make sense for the county to pay fees to the county for recording fees. So Mike has been very, very good in making sure that the two deals, the one that we already transferred and this one coming up, we can get done.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Just a comment. I'm wondering if we could maybe make an arrangement to speak with Mike at some point and see where he's at. I haven't heard much from him and where he's at in regard to the service he's able to provide under the conditions and whatnot. Would that be something we could maybe get some information from him?
Yeah, absolutely. We could put him on the next Ways and Means and just get a general update from him.
Awesome. Thank you.
Pam, would you do that, please? Put that on the agenda and contact Mike and ask him to come. Thank you, Kevin. I don't see any other questions, so we're going to move on. County manager, please.
Yes, ma'am. You have in front of you a resolution to rescind resolutions 402 of 2018 and 316 of 2019 with regard to revenue distribution payments to the enumerated county of Genesee towns and villages. Coincidentally, I believe you received a report today from NISAC, an updated report as to what I would consider to be the very severe and drastic prospects of both loss of sales tax and state aid in the C-19 era that we are now in. Understand that very quickly, the mild to severe has us sales tax wise losing between 4.2 to 9.9 million dollars in sales tax in this calendar year. Also, the prospect of what the governor and the budget director may be doing sometime over the next week to 10 days, if not by Friday. Also potential for a 20 to 50% reduction in state aid, which translates to 3.4 million to 8.4 million loss, again, in revenue in our 2020 Genesee County budget, as far as that revenue resource, those two revenue resources would be potentially negatively impacted. And so it's, I guess you could say it's quite timely that you now also have this resolution in front of you, as well as what you are asking all of us to do and action-wise with regard to how we preserve what's going on as far as you know, our reduced level of Genesee County services, both under the pause through at least May 15th, as well as what we've done with the freezing of approximately 44 positions, the strategic freeze, as well as another 49 people who are on our furlough list, and we are dealing with that. And that's now in its first 30-day trial, which again is prospectively saving us about $215,000 a month. All of those things, as well as what's already happened with regard to capital projects and things that we've either set aside or delayed in those areas, as well as also what we're telling our department heads, and we'll be talking to them more later this week with regard to what any kind of return after the 15th may or may not look like with regard to our classification as an essential workforce or parts therein. And also gaining input from them as to how we continue to control costs and deal with these two significant potential losses of revenue in this calendar, in this 2020 county budget.
Thank you, Jay. So we'll move with this resolution. Can I have a motion and a second, please, before we discuss?
I'll move that.
Second.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Andrew. Comments or questions? Shelley, go ahead.
Sure. As I have been sharing with our partners, the town and villages, weekly since March 28th, our responsibility is to stay abreast of the situation of where the revenue is coming from and from the county. And looking at both of these resolutions that we are rescinding, the county treasurer has been authorized and directed to make these payments without any further action from the county legislature. And that is the purpose of rescinding these, is to remove that authority from the treasurer. We understand that the COVID impact could be with us until 2024, and I think that we're being generous with that time frame right now. The one thing that the last resolve does say is that until there is further notice, and that is something that I have also been very direct about, is that we are in constant communication with our partners, and we are sharing everything that we know and being honest and transparent in what we are looking at. These are circumstances beyond anyone's control. And our responsibility in the county is to be prepared to provide public health and public safety and emergency operations here. And we are taking care of those responsibilities on behalf of the entire population and communities of Genesee County. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Any other comments from the members of Ways and Means? Any other comments from other legislators?
John Hilty raised his hand, Mary
Oh, I
Ann.
don't see John. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I'd like to just reiterate what Rochelle said. In light of the pandemic, the way it is now, we can't fulfill our obligations to those two resolutions of 2018, 2019. And this just gives us a chance to set back and reset with us rescinding, and then until further notice, until we can move forward. But it's something we have to do to get out from the obligations of those prior resolutions.
Thank you, John. Any other comments or questions? I would just like to say that, the members of the legislature do not take this move lightly. These circumstances are really something nobody could have foreseen. Hopefully they'll be limited in scope and we'll get through this and we won't have a go round again, but we don't even know if that's the case right now. And I'll just reiterate what Shelley said. We have to be able to tell the treasurer that he cannot write checks that we don't have the money to back up with. So this is the reason we are rescinding this. And we will be in communication with our partners in the towns and villages. And when we are able to get back to them with some more revenue sharing, if we will certainly have those conversations, but that is something we are not in a position to do right now. So that's, go ahead.
If I may ask Jay, that report you referenced, that went out today?
I forwarded it to all of you this afternoon, Gordy. We got it, I think, about 3 o'clock. But I forwarded it to all of you, as well as with the cover note that came with it from NISAC. It is an update of the report they did in March at the very beginning of the COVID-19 and the impacts that they talked about with regard to sales tax. In particular, this one has now almost on the last page, an outline with regard to the next to last page, what potential note they're seeing from the state with regard to the state aid reimbursement profile and the potential significant reduction in that going from a 20 to a 50% level and that's just in the first 30 days. So this is this is actually a total 12-month period as far as the state budget is concerned. But once again, we know that the governor now has 3 opportunities to make adjustments. The first one, the timeline, he's already in it. He and Mr. Mojica, we are anticipating something coming out between now and maybe then a week from Friday at the latest. And then he has 2 more bites of that apple before he even gets to the end of this calendar year. So it's on that basis that NISAC, again, they don't have any better crystal ball than anybody else does. But again, the things that they're seeing, that Dave Lucas in particular, working with Steve Aquario and Mark Levine and Ryan Gugor are looking at, and a financial consulting firm that they're using have been taking looks at the loss of sales tax across the various sectors of the state economy and how that plays out, in those various sectors, whether it's car sales or gasoline sales or real estate deals, things of that nature. And so that's what's reflective in these charts that they presented us to today.
Yeah, I'd like to share that with my towns. I've been in contact with my towns here quite a bit, and unless there's some reason why I can't share that with them, there is just a lot to know here.
Yes,
a lot of moving parts, and I think it's very difficult to keep up with this if you're not fully immersed in it like you are, and like some of the people are. But this is just a lot to comprehend and understand. There are people that actually believe out there that this will be over in a few months. Everything will go back the way it is. Sales, sales tax will go back to where it was immediately. And I think that's a hard thing for people to understand.
Yep.
There's just a lot there to know.
If it's okay with the legislature, what I was going to do was send this out literally to the entire GAM Association through my best friend Heidi with an IE Librock, and then from there also with others as they ask for the details, because again, I think the document itself is quite revelatory, but very detailed, and I think has a very, what I would call, I'll use the term conservative aspect to what it's looking at, and it could be a whole lot worse than this. And as I think Mary Ann alluded to, or Shelley alluded to, this is something that we heard the state comptroller the other night talk about, that the impact of what we're seeing now, this could very likely, and some of the financial analysts are saying this is going to be out there through 2024. So this is truly a not good new normal, but it is also what we're going to have to deal with. And it's referenced in here also that obviously one of the small glimmers may or may not be federal stimulus 4.0. And how that plays out with regard to hopefully by the end of the month of May of 2020, the United States Congress and the president effectuating what we know at the moment does include some resources for states, mostly counties, cities, towns, and villages that our New York State delegation, I believe, including our two senators, is pretty much 100% solidly behind. But then again, that only pales in comparison to what's in this report when you look at those two major revenue losses, state aid and county sales tax.
I think that should be shared with the city of Batavia and the Townsend Village.
Oh, absolutely, guy. In fact, actually, when I sent it to you folks, I sent it to Marty Moore right away also.
Shelley, did you have your hand up? Go ahead.
I did, and I also think that it's really important that this information is shared in a timely manner with our partners to avoid the thousands of dollars of investment in materials purchase for road work, because we honestly don't know what is not going to be shared with us. And the more that we can share out this information, the better everyone can have an opportunity to gauge their own risk for their own communities. So this information sharing is just, it's vital for everyone.
Absolutely.
I think we're going to be in the age of austerity, and I think that needs to be across every level of government. I think it needs to be in our school districts, in our towns, in our villages, in our city budgets, a recognition that for a lot of people, life has changed dramatically. People are losing jobs. They may not get back those same jobs. There are going to be decisions they make based on that are different than what they would have made maybe 6 months ago. Do we buy a car? Do we get a new house? Those kinds of things. And investments have deteriorated. So I think we are making some tough moves here, but they have to be done. And I think we're leading the way here, and we need to see the same resolve across all levels of government, especially for our taxpayers. Go ahead, Shelley.
I just also wanted to add that the actions that were taken at the Human Services meeting in regards to our outside agencies and putting those payments on pause as well is a demonstration that this is across all of the discretionary spending that the county has, that we are making these decisions. So it isn't just about this one resolution. We're examining every single resolution that comes through that talks about the county's discretionary spending, and we are taking action.
Thank you, Shelley. Any other comments from the members of the legislature? If you have, just go ahead and talk, because I can't really see everyone from the grid I'm looking at, but go ahead and join in.
Madam Chairman?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I confer with the other legislators. The thing is that we've always been very thrifty and frugal, and this is definitely unforeseen and definitely going to hurt us because again, we've never been bloated as far as I've seen the numbers in our county. We've always been very efficient. And now to have this thrusted upon us and with all the mandates that New York State kept throwing on us, and now they're going to cut even more, this is going to be one hell of a ride. That's all.
Thank you, John. You have a very colorful way of stating things, and I appreciate it. Jay,
Well,
you're,
Madam Chairman, John, to that point, obviously, one thing we have not seen and certainly not heard from Albany is we're going to relax some of the mandates. We are going to help you adjust to what services you provide with the mandated services. You know, those things, that 9 for 90 list that we've been living with forever and a day, some going back into the 60s with regard to indigent services, pre-K handicapped children, Medicaid, obviously. We still have not seen in COVID 1-2, the supposed adjustment to our weekly shares by virtue of Medicaid that the governor and the state comptroller, and I believe taxation and finance and or the budget director still have not given any kind of a plan as to whether or not any of that money is going to be part of what we will experience as far as a reduction in one of the largest line items of our mandated services in the Genesee County budget. And that is something that, again, as we deal with, and I've said this before with our new ally, Tom Reed, the congressman in the 23rd district, who was adopted the 27th district. His group, which is obviously part of the New York State delegation, is also very much aware of things that have not occurred yet with regard to what they're looking at for FedStim 4. So again, it's that very narrow line that, you know, we are advocating to Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, to Tom and to the rest of the state delegation as far as our inclusion, and this is a nationwide plea with regard to the potential loss of revenue. The thing the state of New York has not done has told us whether or not, or if that's even on the thinking, in their thinking caps as to what to do with these mandates. I don't sense, because we haven't seen it before, that they're going to relax or tell us that there's a new world order as far as that's concerned. It's kind of our lot in life and we have to live with it.
You can't make this up.
yeah. Jay, how are you going through the different departments with the department heads as far as how they have to make adjustments and what that does to our budget? You brought up the early intervention services. Are we still going to be providing those across the board?
Well, again,
If we're not back at school and if these providers can't see these
Right.
children?
that's part of the conversation we're starting to have with the various departments, including when we talked to them on Friday about what, you know, if there is anything akin to a plan as far as post the 15th of May and or any kind of recovery restoration. It's also, excuse me, what is it that we're seeing caseload wise that says part of what we do or don't do with our workforce is impacted by what we have or don't have as far as levels of service. And that varies from department to department. We would anticipate that, like with the Auto Bureau, Michael is going to see this massive inundation, pent up demand. But we don't know that because of what's going on as far as the Plan B with regard to the school districts, the individual education plans that are mandated by the state. That's information we're seeking from departments that have those mandates connected to their services as to what are they being told and what are they seeing as far as case impacts.
Well, I know we budgeted a certain amount of money for transportation in that program and it's huge, but yet nobody's been transported anywhere
Correct.
for 2 months. So
Correct.
there
And
must
that's,
be some savings in that area of the budget.
well,
that
that's
we need to know as legislators what
Yes,
we
ma'am.
budgeted for and what has not been spent.
correct. That is part of our charge to the departments, particularly with those mandated services, because ostensibly the other first impact is even if we're not offering them what we've already done, could be impacted by the state, the governor and the budget director saying, you're also going to get a 20 to 50% reduction in reimbursement for those services, even the ones we did before the schools were closed down.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And so we'll look forward to those updates and you can
Yes,
let me know
ma'am.
when that will come to Ways and Means.
Yes,
I don't know
ma'am.
if you want to do it comprehensively or if you just want to give an update as each department comes in. I'll leave that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
Well, then
Okay.
we've got one other thing out there that we don't even want to talk about. It's a 4-letter word, jail. That isn't going to go away, and we all know what that means. And just just throw that on the pile.
I'm so glad you said jail.
I thought you were gonna say snow.
Just saying. Yeah, the jail, I know that's at some point that mandate and that requirement is not gonna go away. But what we do in the meantime, we're just gonna have to see where the numbers fall when we get our numbers from the governor as far as to what we're not getting and where we go from here.
Matt, you want to comment on what, what literally you have been doing also, obviously with our consultants and the, so to speak, the pause we have on the entire project at the present time?
Yeah, there's not a ton to report on right now. We've had conversations with SMRT and with Pike, and they obviously fully understand where we're at, and they think we're taking a very logical approach. We're monitoring on a spreadsheet tracker. We're at 34 human beings at the jail right now. So their numbers are down drastically. They're not taking intermittents. We're going to need time to evaluate not only what the bail reform, but the bail reform is going to do to our jail population, what kind of sales tax receipts we get in the future. Because as you remember, it was the Groveland sales tax that was going to cover debt service payments. So if we don't have that revenue source, how could we certainly pay jail debt service payments? So I've spoken to our consultants and have basically said that at this point in time, we're safely at probably a 12-month pause at this point, and we will continue to evaluate as more data comes in and we find out what the effects of the coronavirus is, how long-term, what the financial effects are. As long as our numbers in the jail stay down where they are, then there isn't a pressing need for us to start building this jail. And it allows us to have other further discussions with regional partners and whatnot to see what options are available to us.
It sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. I think we're just about to the end here. Pam, you have your report, please.
Your next meeting is Wednesday, May 20th.
Thank you, Pam. I have nothing further to add, so I will take a motion to adjourn.
Mary Ann, I'm not sure we voted on that.
We didn't.
We didn't vote.
No, you did not
Oh,
vote
wait, we
yet.
just
Thank you.
talked for a long time. Thank you, Shelley. All right, members of Ways and Means, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's carried. Thank you. It's a little hard doing this with a little computer screen in front of you. Thank you for that. Okay, now I will take a motion to Shelley and Andrew, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Be well, be safe, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Mary Ann, I would like to say that it's National Nurses Day, and we certainly owe a tremendous appreciation and thank you to the nurses that are out there working on that front line. Thank you, one and all.
Yeah, we owe it to them every day, but especially today. Thank you for that, Shelley.
I thank my sister personally today in Michigan, because that's what she's been doing for the last 32 years.
Wow, that's God's work, Jay.
You got it.
All right, thanks, guys.